What's going on, everybody? My name is Monatui, coach of the Tampa Bay Lux Rays, and today I'm bringing you guys our TBU Week 4 Team Builder versus Esquilo, aka coach of the Juventes, or coach of Juventes, not entirely sure how to say that. But anyway, his YouTube will be in the description below, definitely check him out. He is having a very good season so far, currently undefeated. He has a +8 differential, is 3-0, has beaten a couple other people from the PPL. I believe he's beaten Alex and Sly already. If not, somebody else from the PPL who I cannot remember, so I apologize to that person, but definitely for good reason. He is a very good battler. He's also got a very solid team that he has built. He's got Sand Offense plus Zard Y plus Sticky Web. He's got Feraligatr as well, so he's got some setup sweeping options as well. It's definitely a very scary team, and I hinted it away a little bit there, but let's just get into it in full depth. He has his Mega Charizard Y, Excadrill, Togekiss, Galvantula, Feraligatr, Sableye, Tyranitar, Druddigon, and Medicham. So he's got a very bulky offensive team. He's got not a lot of fast threats, but he does have Sticky Web and Sandrush to help a little bit with speed. Zard Y is always a threat. Fire Blast is super spooky in the sun. Feraligatr is scary if it sets up. Sableye can be annoying. T-Tar is a bit of an issue to my team. It's going to cut down on my Cresselia's Moonlight, as well as being a decent switch-in to my Cresselia. Medicham I have like 2 switch-ins for, and then Druddigon is, as always, can be annoying for my physical attackers and whatnot, but I believe I've brought a team of 6 that will be able to handle his team relatively well, and let us get into that now. Starting off, we have our Mega Blastoise here. Scald, Dragon Pulse, Ice Beam, and Rapid Spin, relatively standard set. He does not have great switch-ins to this mon. Dragon Pulse is there to essentially hit the Feraligatr as hard as possible, also hits the Druddigon as hard as possible, though I have Ice Beam as well. That is largely for the Togekiss, as well as this is mainly for the Togekiss. I want to be able to hit that thing as hard as possible, and I didn't need a lot of move coverage on this thing, and I didn't think Toxic was super helpful this match. Just because anything I could Toxic, I'd rather just hit very hard. And then Rapid Spin, keeping hazards off is going to be nice because I do have 2 offensive mons that are weak to rocks that I want to keep healthy. As you can see here, I hit 125 speed while timid. Now, that may seem a little bit odd because I'm running a timid Mega Blastoise, but I wanted enough speed to outspeed a Jolly Tyranitar, and I also wanted enough speed to outspeed... Oh no, just a Jolly Tyranitar, but I also wanted the added bulk, so I went with Timid instead of Modest, because with Modest, as you can see here, with Timid, I hit 125, but as you see here, we can go Modest, and I can hit that as well, but that would be running a lot of speed, and I would only have a little bit in bulk, and I don't necessarily want that. I want this thing to be a little bit bulkier, deal with the Excadrill, possibly take a hit from the Medicham, deal with the Feraligatr. So, I went with the Timid nature, this much speed, and then this much HP, just to have added bulk. Plus, I still 2 KO pretty much everything on his team. Like Druddigon's 2 KO'd, Tyranitar's 2 KO'd, Sableye can be 2 KO'd, everything's 2 KO'd, essentially. So, that is why I have this move coverage, that is why I have the speed and bulk that I do have. And that is our Mega Blastoise. Hopefully going to put in a lot of work this game. It's definitely going to be good at revenge killing. It can live a Solar Beam from Zard Y, and 2 KO that with Dragon Pulse or Scald. It's just a very nice mon for his team. Can also switch into his rockers, well not switch into, but can kind of deal with his rockers being Excadrill and Tyranitar and Druddigon and whatnot, so hopefully I'll be able to use this thing effectively. Also, Sticky Web versus my team is annoying, so I want to be able to spin that away if possible, because Web's, like I said, just bad for my team. Next mon we have is our Kyurem Black, running Expert Belt once again this week. It just puts in a lot of work. Expert Belt Kyurem Black is actually really cool because you bluff the choice item and you still hit hard regardless, so you don't necessarily need the extra power of a Life Orb. Plus, with its move coverage, you're going to be hitting a lot of things super effective anyway, but regardless, we're running a specially based Kyurem Black with a little bit of attack investment with Ice Beam, Earth Power, Fusion Bolt, and Roost. Was going to go sub with this thing, but he has something like Galvantula, which can hit me behind the sub. He has some options in that regard, so I didn't necessarily want to do it, especially offensive. Ice Beam knocks out or has a chance to knock out the Togekiss, hits the Druddigon for pretty much a KO unless he's fully Spadef or Assault Vest or something like that. Hits pretty much everything neutrally. In fact, does hit everything neutrally bar the Feraligatr, which I do a Fusion Bolt for, which I can have, which I can possibly knock that out after Stealth Rock, which is very nice. We have Earth Power. That is largely just for the Excadrill, wanted to be able to hit that as hard as possible. Also hits the Tyranitar for a possible 2 KO, which is very nice. And then we have Roost. So we essentially hit his entire team super effectively. So not too much else to go into it. This amount of speed allows me to outspeed a Modest Charizard Y in case he decides to do that. I'm assuming he's going to bring Timid to outspeed this, but in case he brings Modest, I do have this extra speed investment to be able to outspeed it and knock it out with a Fusion Bolt before it can hurt me. Which, despite my 125 HP and 90 Spadef, Fire Blast in the Sun still OHKOs me, so that's cool. Or I believe it has a chance to OHKO me. It does a lot of damage. Too much damage, essentially, but yeah, anyway, that's Kieran Black. Hopefully going to put in a lot of work this game. It's going to be tough, because with Sand Offense, obviously, Excadrill is going to be threatening to me, but we do have a very good stop to Sand Offense right here in Gligar. We are running a physically defensive with a little bit of Spadef, a little bit of speed. Gligar with Earthquake, Stone Edge, Stealth Rock, and Roost. Roost, of course, is to keep me healthy. This is my rocker for this week. It sets up rocks versus things like the Excadrill can set up rocks versus the Tyranitar, assuming it's not offensive with like Ice Beam or Ice Punch. Even though I can take Ice Punch, it's kind of okay with this, but mostly Ice Beams. Can set up on a Medicham locked into anything other than Ice Punch. Can set up rocks against the Druddigon. And spam EQ, weaken that thing a bit. Can hit the Togekiss and Zard Y with Stone Edge. I believe I'm not OHKO'd by Fire Blast. I could be wrong on that, but would be very nice to not get OHKO'd, and plus I can at least hit Zard Y on the switch in with the Stone Edge. Like if you the Dragon Dance Zard Y, I can at least hit that super effectively and knock it out, which is very nice. Stone Edge also hits the Galvantula, though Earthquake should be a 2-KO anyway. I can live a hit from the Galvantula, even like an HP Ice, and set up rocks versus that, or Earthquake and Stone Edge, or do whatever I can to that. So this is just a nice bulky mon for his team. Sets up rocks, switches into the Excadrill, which is the big thing. Like, Excadrill cannot 2-KO me with anything bar, like, invested Life Orb HP Ice, and I don't think he's going to be that real. I know Slyro did that last season to a Gliscor, but I don't know if he would be that real to do that to me with a Gligar. Maybe he'll have, like, SD Magnet Rise, but then, like, he's using up turns, and then I have things for that, so I don't know. We'll see. We'll definitely see when we get into the match, but yeah, this is just pretty much my hard stop to Excadrill. And moving on from that, we did a bench transfer this week. We put Audino on the bench in favor of our Virizion, and we are bringing Virizion this week. This is a mon that is super threatening to his team, has almost no switch in whatsoever. He's got the Charizard Y that goes down to Stone Edge. He has the Excadrill, which dives to close combat, Togekiss, which is 2-KO'd, Galvantula, which is OHKO'd by Stone Edge. For Alligator, he's not going to switch into, although I do not have Leaf Blade. You'll get into Y in a bit, or you'll see Y in a bit. Sableye is really his only decent switch into this. Alright, so I just want to point out, I've been saying Sableye this entire time. Sableye's not on his roster at the moment. He has, the little image that is currently popped up. Pretend there's a Chestnut there instead of Sableye. I'm gonna probably mention that in the beginning of the video. But yeah, pretend Chestnut's there. So Aerial Ace is there to hit the Chestnut. Close Combat knocks out the Tyranitar. Does decent damage to Druddigon, not a lot of damage, but chip damage is nice, though if it is a Rocky Helmet Drud, then that's going to be annoying. And then the Medicham I can hit super effectively with the Aerial Ace and get a 2-KO off that, maybe pick it off if it's weakened. So Virizion is just a huge threat to his team, and I'm very happy to have it this week. Outspeeds a lot of his team. His team's relatively slow, which is very nice. And like I said, without webs up, this thing can just tear through his team. He has no good switch into close combat, plus Stone Edge and Aerial Ace. And Swords Dance is just there in case I get the opportunity to set up, like, maybe against Feraligatr, he's afraid to stay in, and he switches out into something. Or even versus Excadrill, or Tyranitar is a big one, because he can't knock me out with anything bar, like, offensive, Ice Punch. So yeah, there is that. And yeah, hoping Virizion's going to put in a lot of work this week. And with that being said, let us now move on to our Cresselia. We're running Psychic, Ice Beam, T-Wave, and Moonlight. Specially defensive. This is so that I can switch into the Charizard Y as best as possible. I'm not 2-KO'd by anything Zard Y can do, bar possibly Fire Blast in the Sun. And even then, it's a roll in my favor to not get 2-KO'd. If rocks are up, then I am 2-KO'd, but he does have to hit 2 Fire Blasts in a row, which is kind of nice. And I'm not sure if he'd be running Fire Blast, might be running Flamethrower, I have no idea. But regardless, this is my best switch into Zard Y, and I can Psychic it, I can Thunder Wave it. I have Ice Beam because that hits the Togekiss as well as the Druddigon. And then for the Chestnut, of course, I do have Psychic. Well, I have both of these moves. I can deal with the Chestnut very well. I can also switch into the Excadrill kind of comfortably. I don't want to take like a Life Orb Iron Head because it will kind of hurt because I'm Spadef, not Fizdef, but still do a decent amount of damage. And this is also just a hard stop to Medicham. It can't do anything to Maybar, like hit me with a Toxic or something like that. So yeah, this is just a huge pivot for his team. His team does not appreciate it at all. Like, Feraligatr has to get up to like +4 in order to OHKO me with Crunch, which is really nice as well, and I'm not going to let that happen. I have Blastoise to deal with it. I have Speed Boost on Cresselia, or on Scolipede, which will hopefully be able to deal with it. So this is just a gross mon for his team. He's going to have a very hard time dealing with it. His best way of dealing with it would be the Tyranitar, since I'm not running Moonblast to hit it. Even then, it would do nothing. It can possibly Pursuit me, but even then, Pursuit's not going to do a ton unless he's banded. Thunder Wave would be nice to get off on that thing as well. I can at least cripple it somewhat, I mean, everything outspeeds it, but I can, you know, maybe get some full pairs going my way, which is, of course, the real reason you run T-Wave. Nobody uses it for speed control. You run it because you like the full pairs. But, yeah, that is our Cresselia. Hopefully I'll be able to keep it healthy in the sand, but if it works properly, then it'll be able to wall a very large chunk of Quill's team. Now, moving on to the last part of the last part of our team, we have our offensive Life Orb Scolipede. Once again, adamant this week, enough speed to outspeed a timid Togekiss, I believe. I believe that is for a timid Togekiss. Could be wrong on that. I'm checking it out now. Nobody yell at me. Oh no, this is for an Excadrill. An Excadrill that is not in the sand. Because I want to be able to outspeed that no matter what. So, Mega Horn, Poison Jab, Earthquake hit pretty much his entire team neutrally or super effectively. I 2-KO essentially the entirety of his team, bar like a physically defensive Druddigon. I wanted to run Rock Slide so I can OHKO the Megazard Y, but with that moveset, I wouldn't be able to hit the Excadrill super effectively, and I need to be able to do that because Excadrill is a little bit more of a threat. At least in case Gligar's down, because once Gligar is down, he kind of just clicks Iron Head and EQ across the entirety of my team. Even though I do have checks to it, he can definitely wear my team down to the point where Excadrill can sweep me, and I don't want that to happen. And at least I do have the Adamant Poison Jab to hit the Megazard Y, so it's not like I can't touch it at all. It's an easy 2-KO. I knock it out after Rocks, so that is why we are not running Rock Slide. And like I said, just giving Excadrill a free switch in, or whatever it wants to do, is just not good. So I have the Earthquake there. Adamant Life Orb will guaranteed knock it out, which is very nice. And yeah, not too much else to go over. It's a similar set to what I brought last week. It just does plenty of work to his team. Like I said, can hit the Zard Y very hard, knocks out the Excadrill, knocks out the Togekiss, OHKOs the Galvantula, 2-KOs the Feraligatr, can 2-KO a Sableye, can possibly OHKO a Tyranitar if he's physically defensive, then it will be a 2-KO. Like I said, Druddigon's an okay switch-in, but doesn't want to get poisoned from Poison Jab, and Mega Horn still does decent damage. And I said Sableye again. Not Sableye. It hits the Chestnut with Poison Jab. And then can OHKO the Medicham with Mega Horn. So I apologize for the number of times I've said Sableye in this video when it should have been Chestnut all along. But as you can see, we deal with Chestnut very well. We have Kyurem, we have Ice Beam on this. We set up rocks with it versus this. We have Aerial Ace, we have Psychic, we have Poison Jab. So it's not a huge issue for my team. Like I said, I can deal with it relatively well. And thank you guys very much for watching, and I will see you guys in the match. It should be going up tomorrow, so hope you're looking forward to that, and I will see you then.